Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to this edition of SportsView on learnmedia.tv. Press the red button on the right-hand side to subscribe to our channel. Good evening, Joe Waters, and welcome.
Good evening, Pat. Good evening, Derwynne.
Good evening,
Joe. Hey, Pat.
Derwynne, and welcome. And we'll be looking at the usual suspects: soccer, golf, Formula One, tennis, cricket, rugby. I'm on the list. We'll get as much done as we can, or whatever takes our fancy. I suppose we generally start with the Premiership in Cross Channel in England, and over the weekend there were wins for Brentford, Bournemouth, Villa, Man City, Liverpool, and Newcastle. Obviously, Bournemouth came from behind. They were 2-0 down to Everton, and they won 3-2. 3 goals in 9 minutes or something like that. Impressive enough. Man United have more problems than we turn out to be, and we don't want to be a Man United bashing show, but the problems were made manifest for anybody who saw the Liverpool Man United game in Old Trafford. My goodness me, it was pretty awful. Celtic up in Scotland beat Rangers 3-0 in the 1.5 team Premiership. And Grimsby, Joe, I noticed they had a nice home win against Bradford City, 2-1.
Correct. Yeah.
And a nice and hard-earned win for them. Wrexham won again on Peterborough. And Aston Villa beat Leicester City 2-1, a very tight match. Leicester are doing well so far. I know they lost the match. Ipswich drew 1-1 with Fulham. A good draw. Fulham are a good, strong, middle-of-the-road team. And wait till I tell you about Sky News, lads, or Sky Sports. I commented before about wokeism. Is that the word, woke? The commentators. I looked at a lot of games over the weekend. I don't even know which football match it was I was watching. I was changing over from one to the other to see how they were all doing. And at the end of one of the games, the commentator said, well, I suppose you describe it as a very workmanlike performance. And he paused in for a while. Maybe I shouldn't have said that at all now. Maybe I can't use the word workmanlike. It should be work-persons-like. I said to me, it's time for me to take my tablet and be quiet, you know? Really, goodness me, lads. Goodness me. I don't know. What can you say to something like that, you know? You could say nothing. And we're keeping an eye on... Brentford beat Southampton 3-1. That's the other one of the teams that came up this year. Now, Joe, did you see the Man United Liverpool game?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. And, overall, what do you think?
Well, I mean, to be honest, Manchester United are their own worst enemies. You know, I mean, they've lost the ball 3 times for the Liverpool goals in their own half the field and practically in their own last third of the field twice. So it's just, you know, I had said before that I thought Casemiro, and I hoped he would. But his confidence now is so shattered. I think that he's all but done with the Premier League. I really don't see him being successful in the Premier League anymore. I think it's past him. And, you know, it's just one of those things that, I mean, they had their chances. They did their stuff. But Liverpool, you know, set themselves up in a way that would encourage United to try and play out the back and to keep pressure. And when they won the ball back on their press, then they had their 2 forward players right one-on-one with the central defenders, and it was a mismatch completely for them. But it's, you know, it's hard to keep making excuses for him. You know,
Derwynne, what do you think, Derwynne?
I mean, I agree with Joe, but I mean, the passing of United for the really towards the tail end of last season and this season, you'd think they can't pass the ball, can they?
we spoke about Casemiro before, and one thing we can't be very too harsh on him, but if it's obvious to you and I and Joe and all that Casemiro isn't cutting the mustard, how can he be in the team, number one? Number two, then what struck me forcibly was when they showed the lineups before the game began, the team, and they showed the subs bench, and you have on the Manchester United subs bench, you have Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire. You don't have players who will frighten the opposition on the bench. The United bench is just. I think myself that the Man United, although I can't see them finishing in the top four with that kind of carry on.
No, but I mean, the thing is that they've signed your man from PSG, who is not eligible to play this weekend. So he's going to step in for Casemiro. And then you got Kobe Manu, a fine player, and is going to be a fine player, but they're asking an awful lot of him to come in and and be as effective as they want him to be in that position. I mean, I watched the Man City game, and Nico Williams is playing for them, and I mean, he's been on the verge of the first team now for about maybe 2.5 seasons, and he's been in and out. He's got his games and what have you, and Nico Lewis, sorry, and but now he's in the team. He played against West Ham at the weekend, and he just looks like a class above. But he's been worked in gently into the
groomed, didn't he?
Not thrown in, and they're relying on you right away to make a difference. I mean, it's just for a club their size and the amount of money that they've spent, it seems that there've been some very poor decisions made. When you talk about looking at the bench and looking at the kinds of players that they've got on there at this time, it's it makes you wonder, So, but it goes back to. So
you have players on the bench, Joe. You have players on the bench who are at the end of their career, like Christian Eriksen is on the bench. Like he's.
Well, but I mean, Christian Eriksen. We talked about this last year.
Yeah.
Christian Eriksen would be fine, I think, on the bench if he could come in and do a job for them, when needed, kind of thing. But is he a guy that's going to come onto the field when you're a couple of goals down and generate all this excitement? I don't know. But then again, how many players are there out there like that? There's probably only Man City that's got a bench that you can look at it and go, if you want someone to make a difference, then you bring on Gundogan, who's now back there, and
De Bruyne,
somebody like that, or De Bruyne, or somebody like or Rodri.
It's like another world altogether. A team that disappointed me this weekend after watching them last weekend was Chelsea.
Yeah,
I thought they were very disappointing. I thought myself that's the match I started off with because I like their style of play, but maybe it's me. I don't know enough about soccer, but I felt myself that they didn't feed Carlton Palmer half enough. They didn't give him the ball half enough times, And he always does something with the ball. If he doesn't create a chance for himself, he does it for somebody else. I don't know, really.
Well, I mean, he was brilliant for the goal that he created, Cole Palmer, for, I mean, the overlap that he made and then the outside, the left foot across the goal. I mean, it's kind of interesting to see the process that Chelsea have going. They look very good sometimes on the counter attack, and they do great things. And then they look a little bit, naive. Although I think they were a bit unfortunate. Palace were lucky they got a lucky break on the ball that they scored from.
That was a deflection on the ball. I know that you can't, but nevertheless, Chelsea still, in my mind, were far superior than the final score 1-1.
I don't know if any of you watched the Brentford game.
Yes, I did.
Brentford, considering what Brentford are playing with, they haven't got superstars, have they?
No, they have a solid.
But I tell you what, they play as a team. That press that they do.
Yeah.
I mean, Match of the Day on Saturday night highlighted it about the press. And, they've got the striker pressing the goalkeeper.
Yeah. But we talked about this last week. This is now happening more and more in the Premier League, in that goalkeepers in possession are now being targeted by forward players to put them under pressure. And, we talked about this last week or the week before. Southampton has said, look, the best equipped of the three that are coming up. Southampton looked absolutely horrible.
Yeah, they
keep trying to play out of the back when they're not equipped to do it at this level. Yeah. And it's only going to end one way for you. You're going to find yourself that by the end of January, you're going to be back in the Championship if you keep going like that and making mistakes that they're making. Brentford looked really good. I think Southampton played right into their hands. It was a style that they were ready for and could take advantage of. And to be honest, Brentford could have won by 4 or 5 goals easily.
The thing that cracks me up, Joe, is you watch Brentford, and they are 11 guys on that pitch who are all trying in one direction, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
And then you look at United, and United look like 11 individuals who really, some of them don't even look like they want to be out there, let alone trying.
But surely the manager has to take responsibility, some responsibility for that. I know the players are paid to play, but surely the way they're set up, the training.
Match of the day last night, as in Match of the Day 2 on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
They highlighted again, every time United lost the ball through passing it to a Liverpool player, there was 2, 3, even 4 players sometimes just walking back into their own half.
Yeah, not running,
Not running at all. I mean, Casemiro, when he got tackled, he just, sat on the floor, then got up and just stood there.
Yeah.
There was no attempt to run back, there was no effort.
The malaise in the club is not alone on the football pitch and the manager and the team that surround the team, but it's something more fundamental is wrong in the club.
I don't know about any of that part, but I mean, as a football fan, all I'm interested in whether 11 players go out there and they try to win a football match on a Saturday, or a Sunday, whatever. But I mean, but you watch United, and as a United fan, you're like, how can this go so wrong?
Well, my son is a big Man United fan, and he played soccer himself, but he said he didn't see them as bad for a long time, and it is worse they're getting.
Well, it seems to be, you go back to Ralph Rangnick when he came in and the way that he was treated, and we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
But Ralph Rangnick said when he went in there, what you need here is a complete squad, demolishing and rebuild. But the problem is that that's too many people to get rid of. and if you don't make it happen, then you're fighting. You're swimming against the tide every time, because what happens with the new guys that come in, they have to be a huge character to turn around to the others and tell them what to do with themselves, or pull your socks up and get on with this, or you fit into the flow of the club, to fit in, or else you become ostracized and an outcast. And when you've got so many bad characters in the room, then I think that's it. You know, it just overwhelms everybody. And you know, I mean, this goes back as far as David Moyes. When David Moyes took over at United, they got on the bus one day, or on the aircraft one day when they were going to a European match, and they saw him reading a book on coaching or what have you, and they're all going. They look at it and go, "What have we got ourselves into here with this guy?" Instead of shutting your mouth and giving the guy a chance to see what he can do for you, you're already second guessing him. And going. And this is a person that was chosen by your previous boss, who, if he saw you acting like that or heard you acting like that, would have had you out the door in 2 seconds flat.
Yeah.
So it's a culture thing that happens. And I read the same thing about Patrice Evra. You know, when David Moyes tried to sign Fellaini and Leighton Baines, Evra had his nose put out of joint because Evra thought he was a great player. And why are you replacing me with somebody else? You know, so there was a certain entitlement in the club, you know, but it was all held together by a very strict disciplinarian who nobody dared to cross.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it in bad dressing rooms before. I was in some of them. And once it goes bad in that dressing room, you have to have a wholesale clear out. And you have to be very, very fortunate to have a group of players that are talented enough and dedicated enough to come in. And you take your lumps for a little while, but you build towards what you want in the finish. And this has not happened at United. I mean, we're looking now again at another coaching staff that's come in, right? Completely different coaching staff at Man United, and they're still having the same problems. So is it a coach's fault that Casemiro can't pass the ball or can't dribble out the back with the ball without getting robbed? Is it his fault? Was it that Meno lost the ball in for the third goal? You know, is that the coach's fault, or is that the player's fault for not playing quickly enough or not being aware of where he is on the field?
Bruno Fernandes is the captain, is he?
He is, yeah.
Yeah, he went missing yesterday, though.
But that happens to him in a lot of games. You know, it does. So, you know, Bruno Fernandes needs a guy like
Roy Keane
or a guy like Nicky Butt next to him that will do the work, roll the sleeves up and get stuck in and do that kind of work. And he does not have that right now.
No.
I wonder if the guy...
He'll never be that player. He'll never be that player.
No, he's not that player.
It's not in his nature, I don't think.
No, it's not in his nature.
You know, Joe, you know, you're the pro footballer. I'm just the pro fan. But you sit there and you kind of... I mean, I'm watching it yesterday and thinking, oh, Christ, I wish Roy Keane would put his boots on at half-time and say, let me on here. Because I actually think even now Roy Keane would be a better asset than some of those players.
Yeah.
20 minutes.
And that's what you know, I mean, we're all, I know we all look at it through rosy glasses and what have you, and rose-colored glasses. But, you know, you look at some of the guys and you look at, you know, the likes of Scholesy that played. I mean, Scholesy, for being as talented as he was a nasty little piece of work as well.
Yeah, Nicky Butt was good.
And Nicky Butt was a very, very good player. Alex Ferguson said about him, he says, you know, the player that I get phone calls about the most is Nicky Butt.
Yeah.
You know, because he was a very, very good player, but he didn't play all the time. You know, he was kind of in and out the side. So
he could mind, but he could mind. As the man said, he could mind himself.
Oh yes, he could. Yes, he could. And you know, I just wonder if this new guy that that they've signed from PSG,
Agart or whatever his
name. Ugarte or whatever his name is. Yeah. If he might be something that is needed in there. You know, I to be honest, I thought that when they signed Casemiro, it was a good signing, but it's turned out to be
disaster.
No, it's turned out to be yeah.
I mean, I know, you know, Ten Hag keeps talking about the injuries and different things, but to me, like, Casemiro looks like he's either playing with an injury or just.
I mean,
he's just that's the lowest ebb you've ever seen.
Yes,
look, Ten Hag is the manager of one of the biggest clubs in the world. Still, 3 games into the Premiership, and he's complaining about injuries. I mean, he shouldn't be saying anything like that in any press conference at this early in the season, particularly when their performances are being so poor.
You know, when Ten Hag got the job, I think I said on this show, I think it could be a great move because he was really strict at Ajax, wasn't he, with the young players?
Yeah.
And to me, I nearly get the impression that some of those players think they're bigger than him and the club.
Well,
do you think he feels intimidated? So,
I think there's an element where he's a little bit out of his depth. I know that sounds silly to say that.
It's not, no.
Because I think Ajax is a big club, but it ain't Man United, is it?
Look at all the managers they've had since Alex Ferguson. Look at them all. Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, who's doing football, and they couldn't hack it there.
I think there's something a lot deep-rooted at United that something's not right. And I don't know whether that's, you know, the people in control or whether that's just
from time to time
it's going through.
And a more positive note, from time to time we look back at old football clips, a nostalgia bit. I do, maybe the lads have to put up with it. Seriously. So
not this George Best, I don't mind.
I found a nice piece during the week for all you Man United fans who may not have been born even when this was played, but these are better days. So sit back and enjoy this couple of minutes of Man United.
And at Wembley, later on that glorious day, the cup they wanted was the European Cup. 100,000 expectant fans packed the stands to see great football. Bobby Charlton and Coluna exchanged Manchester United and Benfica pennants. The moment of truth in the battle for mastery of European soccer had arrived. United, playing in blue, kicked off. United launched directly into attack. Bobby Charlton took the ball into Benfica territory. Dangerous moments as the Portuguese defence tried to clear. Now Benfica came away. That mighty danger man Eusebio sent in a scorcher. It ricocheted off the crossbar. What an escape! Stepney, unrattled, collected the return effort and got United moving. George Best fell foul of the first of a series of savage tackles which marred the first half. Best again with the ball. He seemed to be a target for the stop-them-at-any-cost Benfica defence, but Italian referee Lobello let that one go. Benfica had the advantage, but met a stonewall United rearguard. Charlton was very unhappy with the ref's decision, and the visitors too had plenty to say for themselves. Benfica with the dangerous free kick. But what a great keeper Stepney proved himself. It was near the end of an unglamorous first half. No score by either side. With the eyes of the world on both teams and the hopes of every Briton behind United, the second half got underway. The Busby boys seemed fired with a new enthusiasm and stormed into the attack. United's football was full of fire. Enrique had to concede a corner to keep that one out. George Best was in terrific form, but so was Enrique. Benfica weren't going to let United run away with the match. They too showed they meant business. On the showing so far, United were proving the better side. Hard-working Best put the ball out to the left, where Sadler had been playing like a demon. The return centre was a beauty. Charlton headed it home. What a tonic for the fans. United won up in the 55th minute and going all out for another one. The match was by no means won. Benfica pulled off a beauty through Grassa. 1-1 and time running out. Stepney was a wonder goalkeeper to stop that rocket from the big cannon boot of Eusebio, and the great Portuguese star sportingly acknowledged it. But that wasn't it. 90 minutes up and still deadlock. The teams were weary, but the fans weren't. With an extra 30 minutes of play ahead, bumps, bruises and tired muscles ached like they'd never ached before. But a wet sponge and a magic massage worked miracles. And so on into the first half of extra time. And what a 15 minutes it was. Stepney collected and fed his forwards. Waiting to receive was mighty Best. He simply walked the ball into the net. What a goal! United in the lead. And that wasn't all. The Busby Babes were raring to go. They hammered Benfica. Watch this fantastic goal. My, oh my, how they cheered Kid, the birthday boy, for that super header. Even Stepney joined in. The Benfica fire had nearly been extinguished. But where United finished, not on your life. Bobby Charlton made it 4-1. Manchester United had well and truly done it. They were supreme soccer champions of Europe. At last, Matt Busby, the maestro of Manchester United, had groomed a team great enough to beat Europe's best. He was king of soccer. His wonderful 11 men were all princes.
Well, Derwynne, did that warm you up your cockles on this Monday night here?
It did. It did. I got dragged up to the stadium after that match to watch them leave on the bus.
Oh, go away, yeah, go away. That was just, I mean, when you consider less than 10 years earlier, you had the Munich air disaster, and then you had the pinnacle of their success, the European Cup, the first British team to win the European Cup, the first English team to win the European Cup.
Wasn't it nice to see goalkeepers catching a ball and holding it rather than punching it?
But going up for the ball with the forward coming in to head it, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When they were allowed to make contact with you.
When men were men, and then you wouldn't go down holding your head after someone tossing your hair now, you know, and get a yellow card for it. But, I mean, that was Charlton was supreme. Best was on fire that night. That was probably one of the better games he played. Definitely two of the Portuguese players should have been sent off in the first half for appalling tackles on George Best, you know. It was an appalling...
but they were like normal tackles in those days, weren't they?
Well, that's the thing with it. And ironically, I'm actually reading a book right now on George Best called Pure Genius.
Yeah.
And they're actually talking, the chapter I'm on is talking about the European Cup final. And the Portuguese had two guys that were lined up to kick Bestie off the field. And one in particular was to stay with him the whole game. And Best was very disappointed in the game, in his own game. And
he had a fantastic match.
Yeah, and the goal he scored, where you saw it there, and I was trying to think back to what he was talking about. He says, he said, I was really disappointed in the TV coverage of the goal I scored, because it looked like I just walked it into the back of the net. He said,
Right.
but whereas we'd won the ball, and when you saw Stepney pass it out, well, Stepney threw the ball out to Pat Creran, who knocked the ball forward to Brian Kidd. Brian Kidd, I think, won the header, and George was on his way and got onto it and sat two guys down and went past the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
It. But, you were talking there, in that 10-year period from the Munich air disaster to Wembley, United had won the FA Cup in '63, had won 2 league titles in the 60s, and finished second on goal difference to Man City in the Premier League, or the first division.
Yeah.
So what a rebuild that was in a short period of time, and then to reach the pinnacle of that. But and unfortunately at the end of that, you had the likes of Bobby, Nobby Stiles, Bill Fuchs, Paddy Creran, all coming to the ends of their careers. Dennis Law, who couldn't play because he was injured at the time. So the last 2 players that were involved in the Munich air disaster, Bill Fuchs and Bobby Charlton, were in the team. And then, of course, Sir Matt himself, who had survived it. But what a job that was. But then the club went into decline after that.
Yeah, got relegated, didn't they?
They did a couple of years later.
They did, because, as you said, and rightly so, a lot of the players together were coming to the end of their careers. Like Bobby Charlton, as we know, had won the World Cup in 2 years previous,
Right.
And,
the interesting thing as well, though, when you think about it, the 2 most successful United managers, being Busby and Ferguson, massive disciplinarians, weren't they?
Yes.
Absolutely. They ruled with an iron fist.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. And you look at that United team, 3 of that team, and Dennis wasn't playing, but Dennis was part of the squad, all won the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
Dennis,
that's true.
And George Best all won it. But Matt Busby's biggest failing was his loyalty to his players. He was very demanding, very disciplined, but he also was very loyal to his players.
Yeah.
He did not like putting them out to pasture.
Yeah.
He was loyal to a fault, and I think that they had tried when Alan Ball signed for Everton. We're trying to get him, but they didn't try hard enough. And Mike England, when he signed for Spurs United, we're trying to sign him, but didn't offer enough. And he went from Blackburn. He went to Spurs.
Yeah.
If United could have got those 2, it would have. And Alan Ball was a huge United fan. His father, who was manager of Halifax around that time, was a United season ticket holder.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So, I mean, he wanted to go to United.
Alan Ball was a great player.
He was a fantastic player. He was probably one of the best one-touch players you have ever seen.
He was superb.
I was fortunate enough to play against him a couple of times.
Yeah.
In fact, I played against him 4 times. 3 times when he was at Southampton. We played Southampton in the FA Cup.
Oh, yeah, I remember when he was at Southampton,
Yeah, we played him and took him to a replay at the Dell and drew 0-0 with him there. And then we drew with him at Grimsby 0-0, then went to the Dell 0-0. And a game that we should have won. We were in the 4th division. And then we went to Leicester, to Filbert Street, of all places, for the second replay. eventually their class told on us, and they beat us 4-1 in the pitch. But it was he was just a fantastic player, absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Well, that was a bit of nostalgia. And if you have any people take time to watch this program, if you have any clip or any piece of nostalgia you'd like us to remember on the program, you can email it to the SportsView there to atlantic9@gmail.com is there, or info@dermedia.tv, and press the red button on the right hand side to subscribe to our channel. We're here every Monday night, Derwynne, Joe, and myself. Just move quickly along to golf. Did you see any golf over the weekend there, Derwynne?
No, I mean the Scottish F1 show is enough for me, thanks.
Well, the Ladies Irish Open was played up in Carlton House, and Annabelle Dimmock won that 19 under in a playoff. She's 72, 66, 65, and 70. She won €400,000. And Leona Maguire finished at -10 down the field in the top 25 or something.
They had bad weather on Friday, didn't they?
Well, they had, but they were talking about the ladies' golf. They were talking about more prize money should be given to attract a better field and enhance the Irish Open, and maybe change the date as well. There was a lot of
the only trouble with if they put more money on the table, all you're going to do is invite all the big Yanks over, and that money will disappear. It won't go to European players. The money will disappear to America.
There's that as well, but nevertheless, it would give. For instance, in the US Open tennis that's on at the moment, both the men and women get the same prize money, even though the women will probably play a third of the game time on court, less than the 2/3 less than the men. So, there's equality in that sport, and it's fully professional. And I think that it's time for golf to get themselves a little bit more than that. Of course, then you had the British Masters, which was a flagship tournament one time.
It would have been,
It was one of the flagship tournaments.
Yeah.
And now a lot of people didn't even know it was on. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I mean, Nicholas Moller from Denmark won it at -16. He got $595,000 for winning it, And when you consider that Shane Lowry finished in the top 10 and he won $1.68 million. And the winner of the British Masters won $500,000. I mean,
it was Nicholas Højgaard, wasn't it? Won it.
Nicholas Højgaard. So whatever I don't know.
I don't know where you came out with Moly Bowler, whatever it was you came out with, but it's definitely Højgaard.
It is, and he's the third Dane to win it. Thomas Bjorn was the first Danish fella to win it.
Yeah.
And the other fella was Olsen. Olsen, was it? Do you remember him? Thorbjørn Olsen.
Yeah, Torben Olsen, yeah.
Yeah, he was second in. This fella was the third Dane to win it. So,
and Great Britain and Ireland won the Curtis Cup.
They did, and our own Anya Dunnigan here from just up the road from where I live, myself in Shannon, she was on the team, and she's sponsored by EI Electronics, which one of the biggest companies around here in Shannon area. So well done, Anya. Well done to all the ladies in the Curtis Cup. 1.5 to 9.5, was it? I think.
Yeah, there was a few. I think there was 2 or 3 Irish.
Probably one of the most boring golfers, Scotty Scheffler, won the Tour Championship. He's a bore. He's slow player. He's awful to watch, just terrible to watch it. And if he hits a bad shot, people will blame the trees. They'll blame the birds. They'll blame the crows squawking. They won't say it was a bad shot. Maybe it was the 2 swans who were swimming across his eye line. I don't know, really. That's just my rant about Scotty Scheffler. But I can't stand watching him. He's so slow. I mean, when you're on the green and you take your third shot for your birdie and it finishes 1 foot, 12 inches, 1 foot from the hole, and you stand looking at it for 30 more seconds first to see it's not going to go in. You amble up to the putt and you mark your ball and you amble off again.
Yeah, but sometimes you might be standing on someone else's line.
Telling you,
it's not always
it's
easy. But
Oh, no wonder people give up. I only was looking at it because Shane Lowry was making a good shot at the last round, but it was awful stuff.
There's a good thing on the BBC on the iPlayer today in the golf section, where they're saying that like the PGA Tour now is kind of lost all their characters. It's all much of a muchness. There's no characters out there anymore.
Shane Lowry is the only character left.
I mean, he is, but I mean, what they're saying is that if you look at like Scheffler, look at Schauffele, you can't really tell if they're having a nice time. If there's no excitement, it's just pretty much like the same thing all the time.
They have no communication or appreciation of the punters, none whatever. They don't want to see them.
Scheffler's won 19 million this year.
Yeah, they don't want to say hello to them. They don't want to acknowledge their presence. Scheffler's particular never says a word to anybody on the course for the whole 4 days. I mean, that's absolutely appalling behaviour on his part.
Yeah, he's notorious for not doing autographs and different things.
But I enjoyed the tournament. I enjoyed watching other golfers as well, But they were away
from that. I thought you didn't there, Pat, for a minute.
Oh no, I watched the golf over the weekend. I watched a lot of it over the weekend, particularly the early rounds. All the lads who were out of contention, who wouldn't even get into the top 10, even if they shot a 58 or 59. But 30 under, lads, 30 under, minus 30. I had to read it. 30 under in the Tour Championship. I mean, really, this is like Disneyland, a Disneyland competition, like Mickey Mouse and Minnie Wee. But 65, 65, 66, 66, and 67 for the slowest man on the planet,
I think maybe the second slowest. I think Cantlay probably can outslow it.
I think if you put the two of them together, who's the one golfer? Was it Rick Tyrrell Hatton? If you put the two of them together, you'd want 2 more days onto the tournament.
Tyrrell Hatton would probably chin both of them if he was out there with it long enough.
He said his worst nightmare is playing behind him,
Yeah.
He said anyway. But I'm not saying, Scheffler is a talented golfer, but out of that you could say no more about him as regards his demeanour and all, he's not good for golf. He's no Severiano Ballesteros anyway.
No, there's no characters, is there? I mean, we recently lost one character, didn't we, with Chichi Rodriguez passing away.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There was a character.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. I don't remember him now.
Yeah, he would have done. Whenever he hold a putt, he always had, he treated his putter like a sword. He used to pull it out of his scabbard thing and he stabbed the hole with it and different things.
I have yeah.
He always wore a trilby, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was story. It's a great story about Chichi Rodriguez.
Where's he from?
Puerto Rico. There was a mate of mine was big pals with him.
Yeah.
And he tells a great story that they're playing, can't remember, they were playing in Chile or something like that. And he's sharing a room with Chichi Rodriguez. And they come back from the golf course. And the Miss World for South America was all the beauty queens from South America were staying in the hotel.
Yeah.
And Chichi Rodriguez turned around to him and went, "Oh my God, we're in deep trouble now." And my mate turned around and said, "Well, why?" And he went, That's all the South American Miss Worlds. That's Miss Venezuela and that's Miss Colombia and
Miss Argentina, and Miss Brazil.
Yeah, and he was couldn't help himself. He was straight across introducing himself as Chichi Rodriguez and saying hello to everybody. He ended up being one of the judges one evening for the swimwear event. How about that? He talked the Miss World organisation into letting him be a judge.
That's a good one. That's a very good one.
Can't imagine Scotty Scheffler doing that, can you?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No,
He would have got the Bible out and read that Bible classes to him.
Did you see his interview, or should I say the Boarfest on the Golf Channel?
No. As soon as I watched him putt out, that was enough for me. Thanks.
Oh, I was flicking around from the tennis, and I happened to catch the start of. Well, I only caught the very start of it. God, Jesus, the demeanor of the man, even in the studio with the three lads, grinning like hyenas at him, and the deadpan there, just.
He is, isn't he? He like you want to tickle him to see if he does grin, don't you?
I was happy with my tour. He hardly had the first sentence out of his mouth when I went over to Law and Order. I think I just went over. Shoot me now. But anyway, that was sorry, lad. That was Scottish. I am a fan of his. I like his golf.
I'll send you a picture of there's a great picture I got sent last week. How golf has changed. And there's a picture of Ben Hogan and Arnold Palmer standing on one of the tees waiting for the group to clear.
Yeah.
And they're both puffing away on cigarettes.
Nice.
And like this, my mates put underneath, look at that.
Yeah. God, yeah. Arnold Palmer, golden man.
I mean, well, this picture's really good. It's one of those pictures you'd get blown up and put on the wall. I mean, it's such a good picture.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at it and you go, it's just a photo, but you look at the photo and you kind of go, wow, look at how much charisma's oozing out of these two. You got Ben Hogan and you got Palmer standing next to him, both puffing away on fags.
Goodness
and
me.
You're looking at it going, look how good these two are. And they're just standing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just reminds me. I was telling you I was reading that book on George Best, pure genius, and they're talking about being in the dressing room at Wembley before the game, and how nervous the lads were, some of the senior players, and the George Best had written. He said, I was so surprised at how nervous some of our senior players were, and how many of them were taking nips out of Jimmy Murphy's hip flask. Jimmy Murphy used to carry a flask around with him with whiskey in it, and he'd take a sip of it every weekend. But that was a common thing. When I first went to England in the 60s and 70s, there was always a half a bottle of whiskey and a half bottle of brandy went in the skip when you went to away games. So the guys would be able to have a nip to settle their nerves before they went out. Of course, in our reserve games, they always went home with the reserve team coach. So
yeah.
He was Christmas.
Did he give you the straw with this head?
Can you imagine taking a nip of whiskey now before a game?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Well, you'd have an inquiry by the FA for a start anyway, you know.
Oh yeah,
you'd be up in front of the Brownies.
Yeah.
It'd take them 3 years to come to a resolution about it.
Yeah. We have
Unless
to mention
you're Man City, and that would just carry on for 10 years.
Yeah, we'll have to mention before we go. We're coming to the end of the program that in the tennis, in the U.S. Open tennis, both Carlos Alcaraz was beaten, and so was Novak Djokovic during the week. And you can imagine the bookies are laughing all the way to the bank, because they were the two players that 90% of the money went on to win the tournament. Sinner as well, but Sinner is not popular now. Amanda has failed 2 drug tests, not one. He failed 2 drug tests, and yet he's playing the US Open. Riddle me that one, lads. Riddle me that one. It's something they don't even talk about on the sports channels, which is, I don't know what is it. Is it omerta in the reporters? I don't know what it is, but it is not a good look. But anyway, my girl, Ariana Sabalenka is still on course to win the US Open. I think there's great credit due to her, owing to the tragedy that happened to her last year, with the death of her partner, suddenly. So, she's bounced back well, and she's playing good tennis as well. But anyway, it's on the tennis channel. It's on Eurosport, and now Sky Sports have a tennis channel now as well, and they have the usual lineup of presenters on it. Which anyway, enough about that. But you can catch it on Eurosport, you can catch it on the Sky Sports channel and on the tennis channel as well. It'll be coming to an end over the next couple of days. So just some exciting matches on show there. And in the cricket, I was looking at some of the cricket, Derwynne. Gus Atkinson, he took 5 wickets against Sri Lanka and an innings of over 100, and that really made the game for him. But he's the first English cricketer to take to bat 100 and 5 wickets in a single match since Ian Botham in 1984.
Wow!
Now I had to look that up because I wouldn't be a big cricket fan, but I mean it's some achievement. But they seem to have a good team now. England, they seem to have a good team.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, it's like a bit in transition. Some of the big names like Bairstow's on his way out, and obviously they've lost Anderson and Broad and different things. But seems like there's loads of good players coming in the background. But I think if you listen to like with Jonathan Agnew on BBC, the cricket guy, what he's saying is the white ball cricket. England have used the white ball cricket as a training ground to bring bowlers and batsmen up into the test side once they've proved themselves in the white ball game. And it was an interesting column he wrote the other day, but he was saying about that. He was also saying how some of these young guys like your Cullens and everything else, Sam Cullen and his brother, where they're playing lots of franchise cricket all winter.
And this is going to be a rout.
That's good. That was my fault there. I know what that was. But
threw me completely. That was Bestie again, wasn't it?
Yeah, it looked like him.
It was, yeah. Well, I found it first in black and white, and the clip that we showed, and then I was looking around on YouTube, and I found it in color then, because I think it was in black and white on television originally, was it?
No, I think it was in color. Because I remember United being in blue shirts.
Yeah.
And which was a total change for them kind of thing. So yeah.
I didn't know why they didn't play in their red.
Because I think they would be away team.
Both teams were red.
But so the other team were in white.
Yeah, but Benfica's team
they were red. You're right, they're red as well. Yeah.
So they both had to change.
Yeah.
So it was just interesting, that you were talking there about Ian Botham, and what a great cricketer he was. Well, he's a huge soccer fan, and he's a huge football guy, and he's a Scunthorpe United supporter.
He played for Scunthorpe.
He played for Scunthorpe, right?
Yeah.
And Phil Bonnyman, who played with me at Grimsby, we were in the second division at the time, and we had a weekend off, and we went over to Scunthorpe to watch him play, and we were in the players' lounge after the game with him, having a beer and a laugh and what have you. Just a great character, just a great character all the way around.
Yeah. Well, now Joe, he's Sir Ian Botham.
Yes, Sir Ian Botham. Yeah. Yeah,
deservedly so. Great all-rounder. We've come to the end of another show, guys, and it's been a blast again. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope all the lads who take the time to look at it enjoy it as well. As I said, if you have a memory of anything, any sporting event, just let us know and we'll dig it out and give it a whirl for people just to remind them. So, from Joe Waters, from Derwynne, Honan, and from myself, until we meet again next Monday night, lads. Take care, God bless, and have a good week.
Take care,
boys. Take care.